upcoming stage, and we'll bring on the members here. Let's see, we've got the moderator, Tyler. How's it going, Tyler?
Hey, how's it going, Justin?
Awesome. Then we got Seth. Hey, Seth, nice seeing you again.
Good to see you as
Uh,
well.
and then Ingo from Kilt,
Hi.
and Robert from Crown Sterling as well. I think everybody here was here at the Central Austin, so nice to see you guys back again. Always great having you guys, and thanks again for joining us here at DeFi Summit. But I'll give the floor back to you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having us, Justin. We appreciate it. This is the Identity and Privacy in Web3 panel, and I am your moderator. I'm the host of the NFT and Chill podcast, and I'll be introducing our speakers for this panel. First, we have Ingo from Kilt Protocol. Want to give yourself an introduction, Ingo?
Yeah, hi, I'm Ingo from Kill Protocol. I'm the founder. Kill Protocol, as most of you probably know, is around decentralized identity. So we are implementing DIDs, which are decentralized identifiers, and verifiable credentials, which together form decentralized digital identity on a blockchain. We're part of the Polkadot ecosystem. That's enough, I think.
Awesome. Next, we have Seth Estrada from Mind Your Biz.
Hey, thanks for having me on the panel. My name is Seth. I run the outlet mindyour.biz, and I do a bit of infrastructure consulting for institutional groups within the space, including some Web3 marketing agencies, as well as NFT projects and high-value blockchain projects, tokens, feasibility, but with a strong emphasis on privacy and on security.
Awesome. Next, we have Robert Grant, CEO of Crown Sterling.
Hi. Yeah, Crown Sterling is a quantum-resistant blockchain platform that utilizes an encryption technology called one-time pad. We're the first to do that. One-time pad is the same encryption that is used on things like nuclear codes and such. And it's entirely uncrackable because it's based on information theory instead of just number theory and mathematics. We're also into compression. So we compress our keys for cryptography in a patent solution for that. And we want to be able to provide both compression as well as encryption for consumers in a decentralized format, as well as for other blockchains as well that are looking to become quantum resistant and compliant with kind of the new standards that are coming out now that quantum computers are available.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you all for being here. We're going to talk about identity in Web3 and the importance of it, and kind of, that's so what we'll do is we'll start with Seth, and can you speak a little bit about the importance of identity in Web3 and kind of what it means to you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for me, my journey into blockchain and into Web3 allowed me to start to see early on that pseudonymity was the name of the game for a lot of years. And identity was something that didn't seem desirable for a long time. So, I mean, you can tell the old dogs that still care to have the Bitcoin logo anywhere in their branding, or still, we still believe, right? Hard to shake the faith, right, of an old Bitcoin believer or Bitcoin mostimists like me. But pseudonymity was the name of the game. It wasn't really identity as such. We wanted to know that we could quickly change things, and then it was very high touch, being able to achieve some level of anonymity, right? Like, you got to do all these things. You got to understand how Tor works. Got to understand your IP hygiene, right? Using VPNs and understanding who the service providers are for your VPNs and the combination of services that you have to put together, and then also start doing key provisioning on your own. It's a crazy journey, right, that we've been on. But fast forward to today, with all these newer solutions that are coming into play, so that we don't have to worry quite so much about the implications of having an ID, like an actual identification that we stand behind, and then being able to either behind, custom ZK proofs or some other layers and other encryption tunnels and gates and such, being able to just release the parts of information that we want, it's great to see that we're finally getting there. It was a dream for years, right? But yeah, I guess that's kind of my take on it. I like looking at this and trying to evaluate where all the threat surfaces are, where all the attack surfaces are, because that's what I have to do for my clients, right? Like, how do we prevent absolute financial ruin by being insecure with the way that we hold this information? So it's great to know that we're almost at the point where for the retail participant, it is turnkey.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, the space is growing, but, safety, privacy, things like that are extremely important for the growth of the space and for new people coming in. Because, a lot of the average person, they, when they hear DeFi and NFTs and blockchain and all that, they get, kind of hesitant because of the security and safety and privacy issues. So it's good to see, companies like, everyone on stage here that are trying to help bridge that gap with being safe and private in the space. Ingo, can you, I guess, describe what identity in Web3 means to you and Kilt Protocol?
Yeah, definitely. So I think identity is one of the great promises of Web3. Web3 was a little bit renamed in the last half year by industry, probably. But what we actually thought of when we started this Web3 movement in 2016, 2017, was that we looked at Web2 and we looked at everything that was wrong there. And there were a lot of things wrong, basically, because it was just an application layer built on a very, very small internet protocol layer. So we said, actually, we have to bring things which are necessary for everyone. We have to bring them out of the application layer, away from the Facebooks of the world, and into a protocol layer which is owned by basically everyone. And ownership is definitely one of the big things there, and this is the NFT part, but identity is another one, which is even more corrupt, basically, in the Web2 than ownership, because ownership just didn't exist. And this is why we set out and founded this company in 2018 to solve exactly that problem. And at the same time, there was the forming of the Decentralized Identity Foundation, the DIF, which now includes more than 300 companies, including smaller ones like blockchain companies, but also bigger ones like Microsoft and IBM, where we set out to define standards, how to actually code an identity and define what actually an identity is, because identity is not identification. An identifier in the physical world would be, for example, my face, and in the blockchain world would be probably my wallet address or something. But this is not enough. Identity grows in the physical world, like you get more and more credentials from trusted entities like the driver's license, your passport, or your library card, your whatever you have, your university degree. And these credentials are always linked to your identifier. So they have a picture of my face, for example, and then I own them, and then I can do with my credentials whatever I want to do. Right? I can go to a bar and show my driver's license to prove my age. And this is totally asymmetric, because the people who issued this driver's license, they don't know that I visited this bar. So this is total privacy, actually, right? And as you just said, disclosing parts of this of credential is also a very important part. We call that selective disclosure. You can do this with your driver's license. You can basically put your finger in front of your name, right? Why does the bar guy needs to know what your name is? He needs to see the picture compared with your face, and then see the date of birth and see if you're 18, and then he has to check maybe if this credential is actually a valid credential, because it was issued by a trusted entity that he trusts, and then you get going somehow. And in the Web 2, we basically changed this really successful model, which was working for like 500 years. We changed it to now everything is owned by Facebook and you have nothing. And they start communicating with other services about your credentials, which they hold, which you never see. And this was so wrong. And in the Web3, we basically, what we made is that we took all this the processes from the physical world and we re-implemented them in the digital world, so that you can now create your own identifier on your computer, that you can be a trusted entity which issues credentials, that you can hold your credentials, and that you choose who to share your credentials with. And this is, I think, the solution for it. And I'm pretty happy that we finalized the standardization part and also the implementation part. So this is all there now. And this is for developers, this is great news actually, because you can now start building applications on top of these things, right? They are standardized and they are implemented and they are ready to use.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think, you mentioned, the difference between Web 2 and Web 3 was learning from our mistakes, and I think that's what's really awesome about the space as a whole. Like even with cryptocurrency and DeFi, like we're trying to make it better for everyone and learn from the mistakes that government controlled fiat have made. So I think that was a great point. And for digital identity in the space, the average person uses, like you said, ENS names, their wallet addresses, unstoppable domains. Some people even use their NFTs as their digital identity in Web3. And I think, that is, as the space moves forward, I think that will get, more prevalent. So, Robert, can you explain what digital identity means to you in Crown Sterling?
Sure. Let me put it in brass tacks, I guess. I have a Telegram following personally, and yet when you do a search on Telegram for my name, there are 9 different Robert Edward Grants with my same logo and everything. And it made me think immediately of like metaverse, because I think, most of us would probably agree that it's not going to be that there's only one metaverse. There's going to be many. And what's going to basically transit through those different metaverses will be the identity that you choose, your own avatar, right? Whatever that avatar is. I have, a significantly sized social media presence. And so I have the same kind of marketing look and feel and everything for that avatar, if you will, in social media. And I think it's going to likely be the same on, in metaverse and in Web3. So how do we protect ourselves from just everybody being able to step in and say they used to be the Nigerian prince that's now you, right? Yeah. And that's kind of the reality of the situation, right? So, yeah. and it's crazy because they have bots as well. They've gotten the Nigerian prince got sophisticated because they have bots go into my Telegram and they actually copy all my original content and they post it on there so people that go on the other pages, and some of the other pages have more followers than my page does. It's hilarious. It's like, there are pages with my name on it that have like 10,000 followers on Telegram, and heaven forbid that happens on, Instagram and Facebook, but very likely it already is happening, right? People are getting hacked all the time. So I think that what we're trying to do is we have created a product in addition to our quantum resistant cryptography, which I think is going to be critically important to be able to protect your identity. And then also combining that with our unique mathematical compression technology, what we've also built is a quantum resistant VPN. So my phone right now has on it a quantum resistant VPN that I can turn on. It's backed by one-time pad. It encrypts everything on my phone, all of my data, all of my geolocation, all of my search history, everything gets encrypted. So even though still the other carriers that have relationships with it, whether it's Facebook or whether it's Amazon or whomever that can reach into my phone, they may get access to my data, but it's all encrypted with one-time pad, so they can't do anything with it. It's like worthless to them. I think that's the first step that we're going to each start having to think about taking. It's no longer just about encrypted messaging apps, which none of the current encrypted messaging apps are quantum resistant, but it's going to be about having our entire digital lives, which are really just an extension of our own identities, be now protected because we can encrypt through like quantum resistant VPNs and phone communications and everything, such that none of that data can be used by another party. I just wrote a book that's going to be coming out. It's getting published by a publishing house called Greenleaf and Fast Company, you may have heard of. And basically, the name of the book is Neuromind, but it's not M-I-N-D, it's M-I-N-E-D, because we're all being neuromined of data. Data is the new oil. It's the most valuable asset in the world. And we believe that, it actually gives a real possibility of a true, basic universal basic income for people if we could be the ones who actually can benefit from the original production of our own data. And if we can blockchain that data, but first, in order to blockchain it, you have to encrypt it, you have to put a fence around it. So we've created an ecosystem within Crown Sterling so that people will be able to do that. And I think this is going to be a critical aspect of being able to protect your identity, which ultimately your identity is going to be your most valuable asset.
Yeah, absolutely. Identity has become so important in Web3 and like building your social equity on, these social platforms in the metaverse, on Twitter. So yeah, I mean, it's become kind of, almost as important as anything else in the space is your identity and the social equity you can create in the space.
I mean, think about how much money we spend on this and time and effort, On Instagram and Facebook, I have under my name about 500,000 followers. Yeah. And what happens if all of a sudden someone comes in and just takes that over, and I have no way to stop that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Talk about a massive value attrition. It's incredible.
Well, and even when I was making the post about this panel, I was adding all of you on here and your companies as well, and I noticed that there were 3 or 4 Robert Grants who were trying to pose as you, and also there were 4 different Crown Sterlings.
Yeah, no, it's a freaking nightmare. So it needs to be, and that's why I started the company, is because I thought, geez, we need to have some mechanism for this. It can't just be pound sand. At least Instagram has mechanisms, like you can get the blue tick and stuff like that, and verifications with them. But Telegram doesn't have anything right now. And when you think about where this could go with Metaverse and Web3, oh my God.
Yeah. The privacy and the safety of the space definitely need to catch up with the technology. That's for sure. So we're moving to Seth. What do you think is the future of technology and safety in the space?
I mean, unpopular opinion, it's going to be hybrid. It's we already operate within a blend of centralized and decentralized infrastructure, even when we talk about Web3, right, and Metaverse in particular, right? I mean, it'd be computationally just too heavy a burden to bear to have every single interaction recorded to any blockchain. Even if you have the most highly performant blockchain in the world, if you have every single gamer in the world choosing to commit every single action at all times, it would just be poor contract design, right? To commit all of that data to a blockchain. So we're already dealing with the realities of the upper limit of performance on blockchain when we talk about not ID, but metaverse. So since we have digital ID becoming such an essential component of metaverse, I think it's also fair to presume that a lot of the future of that digital ID is going to be leaning on blockchain, yes, for checkpointing, yes, for being able to store certain amounts of data, transaction hashes, and even just initial hashes for commits of identifying bits of info. But I mean, encryption isn't broken. A lot of encryption isn't broken. It's good that also we're hearing about quantum encryption being pioneered right now so that it never does break. But let's be very clear. Encryption doesn't require decentralization. So I believe the future is going to be of finding that blend of decentralized and centralized infrastructure to be able to serve the needs of every citizen of the future metaverses. And if there does ultimately become one metaverse to rule them all, how do we make sure that we maintain our sovereignty before they fully take over?
Yeah, absolutely. Taking the best of both worlds is the best option. Robert, someone has asked, what is the name of the VPN?
It's going to be called Orion.
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 Okay, thank you. Okay, moving on to Ingo. Same question. What do you think of for the future of identity in the space, and also, safety to go along with it?
Yeah, so identity, I think, is something that will generally be decentralized. But Seth is absolutely right. That doesn't mean that everything has to be decentralized. Blockchains are not very good in computing, and they are extremely bad in storing things. When you look at use cases which you meet, I think 95% of them are better off on a centralized service. And then there's those 5% which really need a blockchain, and then you should go on blockchain. So I think that actually identity is one of the things which will remain on blockchain, because we have seen already in the past that centralization of identity data is absolutely dangerous. And I'm not talking about governments, because as I said, the government ID is basically really decentralized, because not every credential that I own is issued by the government. Most of them actually are not. They are issued by banks, they are issued by libraries, they are issued by universities, they're issued by schools, they're issued by a lot of things, and not by the government. There's only this passport and maybe the driver's license which comes from government. So it is actually already decentralized. Also the face is totally decentralized, because no government gave me that face. I somehow didn't. That's definitely decentralized, and it will be decentralized in the future, because when we see the problems and the enormous power which has accumulated with just a handful of companies all around the world, by storing the digital identity of people, this is something that definitely has to end. And any solution out of that, where you would assume a somehow permissioned or centralized or private entity, even if it's a consortium of companies or whatever, which would take care, or of governments, even worse, which would take care of your identity, then you're screwed in the end, right? So this is something where we can safely say that industry has already understood. Some governments still have some issues with understanding, but sometimes they are a little bit slower, and governments will understand that as well. So if you look at government identity projects right now, especially in the European Union where I live, it is all like, hey, can we do this on a permission blockchain? Well, they will find out later that this probably won't work so good, because it is somehow centralized again. And then when we have the metaverses, people will start earning money in the metaverse, and then the governments will come and say, well, actually, where's my tax cut, which I want to have out of that? And then they will move into decentralized identity, because it will be already there in the metaverse. So my prediction is probably this is going to take another 7-8 years or so, but it's definitely going to happen. And so for identity, this is the technology. Decentralized is the right technology. For many other things, it is definitely not. So gaming has some parts which can be made on a blockchain, but the high computation stuff is either going to be edge computing, or it is on central servers.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Robert, we're actually going to ask you a different question, because you mentioned that, how important it is to protect, identity with social media, and how difficult it can be. Mm-hmm. So, for the future, does Crown Sterling or yourself have anything coming that is going to protect someone's identity, on social media, in the metaverse, anything like that? Can you speak on that?
Yeah, that's definitely in our plan. It'll be an extension of the Orion app, which right now is in beta. I've got it on my phone. It's pretty cool. When you land I go to Dubai pretty often, and when you land in Dubai, the government has a standing practice to literally tap into your phone. I don't know if you guys knew that, but it's true. And so they get access to your data and information right away, but not if you have VPN, which is kind of nice. And also, I just want to make one thing clear. The U.S. government just announced, you guys might not be aware of this yet, but you can look it up. The U.S. government just announced a few months ago, starting in February, from the White House, that every branch of the U.S. government has to be transitioning over from encryption protocols that are not quantum resistant, like elliptic curve, as well as RSA encryptions, over to quantum resistant protocols, which include really only one-time pad, and then there's 3 others that they just mentioned. And that is a big, big thing that they've literally just did a massive thing on. So you can look at that. It's not happening yet in blockchain because there's nobody in the blockchain world. There's no real advocacy that unites all the blockchain companies to then say, okay, we need to basically make a cutover and change. And I think that there should be something like that, quite frankly. But basically that has happened. So I think there's going to be a need for quantum resistance within the blockchain community very soon. If certainly at least in following with where the U.S. government, every branch of the U.S. government has to be compliant with within the next month now already. The other thing is, you're right, it doesn't have to be on blockchain. Encryption doesn't have to be on blockchain. We provide encryption products also through one of our other businesses called Theon to companies like IBM, the U.S. government, and others, right? And none of it is blockchain oriented. However, we did want to be able to create a mechanism so that other blockchains will be able to use our quantum resistant encryption as a wrapper. So it's a wrap that goes around, and you pay a small gas fee for doing so, but it's a wrap that goes around. And in that, you can, it also includes things like decentralized key storage and decentralized storage of data as well, with using our compression technology that we utilize to develop our key compression for one-time pad. Because with one-time pad, every single character has to be individually encrypted. So if you have a gigabyte file, you have a gigabyte key. That's why it's very, very robust. We figured out how to do it, and that compression makes it very possible that it's actually even more efficient from a storage space capacity requirement than current compressions, as well as current methods for key storage, which generally don't really use compression. Now, as far as like what kinds of technologies we will provide, in addition to our quantum VPN, the quantum VPN actually is a combination wallet. It's a combination messaging app as well, so it's got full messaging capabilities within it. Eventually, it'll be a social platform also for people to be able to connect with each other. So you can kind of think like a combination of Venmo, except that it won't be showing everybody what they're purchasing. I can't stand that about Venmo. And then, but also it'll have kind of like a social aspect that you can utilize and build within a community if you want all of it in a decentralized network. Our whole framework is built on a Polkadot substrate, and we're also moving towards a parachain. So, and we've had meetings with Parity, which is really exciting about that. And I think we're kind of well down the path on that now. And then the other aspect of this is that this quantum VPN as well will eventually have the ability for you to encrypt, as it were, and protect your identity so that it can't be used across multiple different platforms. We haven't thought about yet for general social media. We might, but certainly we are building that into our avatar approach for an avatar that could be built that could go and transact and go across multiple different metaverse environments. So think of it like as an encryption shield.
That's awesome. We lost our moderator. Just going to respond.
Yeah, I know.
Sounds great.
We just keep on talking.
Yeah.
They can't take us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We can wrap encryption for a while too. I mean, so NIST, as you know, this month they only just released their 4 candidates for quantum resistant encryption. But I mean, they had a few years that they had that project going, and so no, I'm excited. I'm excited for the chats after our panel.
I'm excited about you, Robert, coming into the Polkadot ecosystem. So welcome, and I think we will have some fun together in the future.
I think so too. No, I'd love to connect with you guys whenever after it. I'd love to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe we can write it in the chat, but it looks like our moderator's back. So
I'm back. So we're actually reaching the end of the panel. We have some really awesome people coming up next. So real quick, we'll just go around and tell everybody where they can find you and your company. Seth, Estrada, why don't you go first?
Sure, I kept it really simple. This link right here will forward you to my YouTube channel. That's the fastest way to hear from me, and I'm very interactive there. I've also _biz on Twitter, and yeah, very interactive there. Love to chat. DMs are open. Please don't abuse them.
Excellent, excellent. Ingo, why don't you tell people where they can find you in Kilt Protocol?
Kilt.io. There you find all the social stuff, and you find me, and you find the group, and you find everyone in there.
Excellent. Robert Grant from Crown Sterling?
Yeah. Mine is just crownsterling.io, but also you can find stuff on my social media at just Robert Edward Grant, and on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter, on all those different things.
Excellent, excellent. I want to thank all of you for coming up and giving so much great information in this panel. And I'm the mayor, also Ty Greenfield on Twitter, LinkedIn. You can find me everywhere. You can also catch the NFT and Chill podcast on any platform that plays podcasts. So I also want to thank DecentralCon for putting on this event and having us come up and speak. This was awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Good to meet you both.
Yeah,
Nice
good to meet you guys.
All right, all the best.
And thanks again for the amazing panelists. Been covering again a lot of the different topics